All right, welcome in everybody. And Michelle Hasty Thompson here. I am with Matt, and we are going to be talking about consistency, but specifically, Matt wants to dive into what happens between rounders and bracket. I'm sure you all could relate that something can go awry. I said the opposite of sandbagging, right? you look back and you're like, man, I threw way better in rounders than in bracket. And obviously, in bracket is when we want to show up at our very best. So Matt, thank you for sharing what you're experiencing. And why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about what's been going on so we can dive into it a little further.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Just kind of what you had brushed on. I'll be going through the rounders and throwing just great, throwing lights out, comfortable with everything, almost effortless throwing, get into bracket play and almost feel like I've lost connection between my body mind and can't, for the life of me, figure out how to reconnect with that, even with taking breaks, doing my pre-throw ritual, trying to slip back into that flow state.
So after you fist bump and it's your first live bag, do you notice any kind of subtle change, even if it's just your heart rate accelerates a little bit or you tense up on the bag a little bit?
Yes, all of it. I can feel that little bit of, I don't know if you want to call it an endorphin rush or an adrenaline rush. I mean, yeah, you feel it. I'm a competitor by nature, so I'm like, getting into that competitive mindset, and I'm like, it just doesn't connect, and I can't figure out what it is.
And do you have that same feeling during rounders after your fist bump?
No, not at all. Because
Okay.
I don't know if it's one of those mentally in the back of my head. Rounders counts, but it doesn't count.
Totally.
Kind of.
You're not going to walk out the door after one of your rounders
Right.
games, right?
Right.
Okay, so this is perfect. So you know where things went wrong, right? So there is a feeling that kicks in right after the fist bump when before your game goes live, because you know this game has more pressure, because especially if it's single elimination, it's this or you're gone. There's no way to avoid that feeling. That is very normal. So we can't say, oh, I wish it could feel like rounders. It's not going to feel like rounders. We just have to deal with that feeling when it shows up and not be afraid that it's there and not let it have a spiral, right? So what I would do is, one, anticipate it, right? This goes back to back when I would teach people about binge eating. I would say, I want you to actually plan your binge. Like tonight at 7:00, I'm going to eat all the food in the house, like, and lay it on the table, and it makes it silly, right? You're like, it's not this heavy thing that's taking over your life anymore. It's this thing that you're on sort of board with. You're like, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So that's kind of step one, is being like, yeah, after the fist bump, I'm going to feel a shift because I care. And this is important to me, and I want to win, and I want to be the best possible version of myself, and I want to compete, and I want to throw my ceiling. All that's going to happen in a split second, right? So if you don't, if you fear that, or if you wish it didn't happen, we're already working against ourselves, right? So that's going to happen. That's okay. It's normal. Your mindset towards that is, I can deal with that. I can deal with that feeling. I can deal with those thoughts. That's part of being a competitor. It's not a big deal. So that's step one. It's just not being afraid of it. Totally normal. And then it's, what do you do with it now? So you said you've tried some things when you've noticed that feeling. Those things that you've tried, when did you try them? Was it before you threw your bag, after you threw your bag, after a round? Tell me more about what you're trying.
A little bit of both, more so after I throw that first bag and I'm like, okay, you completely missed the freaking board. Well, what the heck was that? And I just take a step back, take a breath, flip the bag around, take a breath. Okay, recenter, try to calm the nerves, especially the frustration of, there's such a mindset of, okay, that first bag, that this is going to, is it going to dictate the rest of my game?
Yeah, I think what you were about to say is more accurate in your mind, which this is going to dictate the rest of the round.
Yeah.
You stopped yourself, but I think that's actually what's more true in your mind, which is normal. But let's try doing that reset technique before you throw the bag. So knowing that your state's going to change right as soon as you're done with those down and backs, you felt really good up until that point. There was a tiny little subtle change, even if it's positive, even if it's just adrenaline, like, I'm excited. That's still a state change. And so recognizing that that happens, I just want you to do a reset right then and there. Like, kind of have a rule in your head. I don't throw this bag unless I'm in the right state. Like, it's just not an option. So that's going to take a second to just take a deep breath, maybe shoulders up to your ears, drop it down, like maybe kind of aggressively, just to get some like movement in the body. Do like I got this, I'm locked in. Or if you need to remind yourself, this is not that big of a deal. It just depends on personalities, right? You could either go with like trying to release pressure, like this is not the end of the world. I'm still, this human that lives on this earth, and this is just a cornhole game, no big deal. You can go into, I'm locked in, I got this, or you can go into process. My job is to release this bag. That's all I'm here to do, right? So just kind of pick whatever fits you best, but have a very intentional start to your game before you release that bag. And then you're doing the right thing when you're noticing, oh, something's off. That's great. And you're kind of like, okay, now what do I do? And just know that those reset techniques, they take a lot of reps outside of the game, right? For you to not for it to work, for you to trust that it works. That's all that it is.
Exactly.
Right?
I think you hit on that. I'm almost trying to force that calmness instead of let it happen.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to reset. I'm going to do this. That means I'm going to fall back into that flow state. It didn't go back into that flow state. Now what do I do?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You're like, it's time. It's just practicing reps. And just like when you first started throwing bags and every time you released it, when you first started, probably did not believe that it would go in the hole. Because you're like, what evidence do I have of that? Right? It's the same thing here. What evidence do you have that you can simply take a deep breath and, shake out your arms and be fully back in the flow state? Like, that's just going to take some reps to build trust that works for you and finding the one that works for you. So that's part of it. And then the last part that I wanted to touch on was just not making meaning out of it. So, like I said, you kind of did a slip there where you're like, this is going to set that. No, it is not. It is one bag. It has absolutely nothing to do with the remaining bags in that round and the game. Now, that's a very logical thing for me to say. It's easy to say, not easy to do. But that's just reminding yourself of what's true. What's true is I missed this bag, and it means nothing. All it means is that bag didn't go on the board or in the hole. And then the meaning stops there. Then I get to decide what happens with the next bag. Now, you don't control the outcome, obviously, but your job is just to work on your own state. What's going to make you feel really good? Is it telling yourself, oh, shit, there went the game? Does that feel good?
No.
So what your sort of work with yourself is kind of think about you as even another person, like if you were coaching somebody else. Like, what do I need to hear right now? What do I need to do right now? If somebody were to kind of coach me through this moment and it wasn't me, but it was someone just like me, had my personality and my instincts and my competitiveness, what would they need to hear? Some of you need to hear like, get your head out of your ass and blah, 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 right? Some of you need to hear like, hey, it's okay. It's not a big deal. You got through more bags. Like, just what is that pep talk that you need?
Yeah, I've got a great group of friends that we play with, and even at the state tournament a couple weeks ago, they were there, and I think because of my past in the level of professional competing that I had done with arm wrestling, I mean, I was the number one guy in the world for 2 years. So I had so many people looking up at me, looking up to me, and watching every little thing I do. And when I failed, I feel like I let them down. And that was more of the guilt. And it's the same thing even with cornhole, is silly it is just, it's my mindset. It's like, man, I got all these people, my friends here supporting me and watching me, and I just let them down.
Why do you think we do that?
I'm a very empathetic person. I care about how other people perceive me when I maybe shouldn't. I really shouldn't give a shit what you think about me. I should care what I think about myself. But it does. I don't want to let people down.
Yeah, but that's also assuming you're letting them down, right? Like, you don't know
And
that.
maybe I'm not even not letting them down, but in my head, I'm like, I
Sure.
failed them. I failed them.
But that's kind of what's the word? I'm going to say a word with caution. That's kind of arrogant of you, right? To assume you know what they feel.
Yeah.
We don't know. We have no idea
No.
how they feel, right?
No.
Now, caring what people think is a delicate topic. I know it's so easy to say, oh, I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't believe that's true because we as humans are connected. But I do think we need to be careful about who we care about what they think, right? So
Right.
the people that I care, the people's opinions that I care about, it could fit on a post-it note. That's kind of my rule, right?
Right.
I
Right.
care what my husband's opinion is of me. His opinion matters, right? But I don't care about what random Joe or Sally thinks of me that doesn't even know me personally at all.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I think
And yeah, it's and it is. I mean, I wish I could put a finger on me. It's like even when I would, was competing over in Russia and, had so many people, little kids coming up to me and wanting my autograph. And I'm like, oh man, this is so cool. And then I lose. And I'm like, oh man, what's going through that little kid's mind right now that he thought so highly of me. And,
he's
I
probably
again,
he's probably thinking, wow, he's human like me. Wow, that gives me permission to also make mistakes. Oh, he's flawed. I can connect with him more. There's a moment I was talking to Tony Smith, their Mark Richards, Tony Smith, one of the best doubles teams ever, right? Well, their first season, they didn't play their best, which their best is still better than most people, but they didn't
yeah,
play as good as we thought they would, right? And I asked Tony, I said, what switched? And he said, it's when Mark had kind of a bad game and I realized that he was human. And that's when I finally was able to play well with him.
and that's something I'm glad you said that because that's another thing. I unfortunately last night with my partner that I got partnered up with was a very an extreme novice, and I let that dictate, I think, as well in my head of I've already checked out, maybe mentally, like, well, we're not going to win this because unfortunately I did not get a better skilled partner. So maybe I did that to myself. I set that pre-notion in there. I'm like, well, we're not going to win anyway, so why care? I still want to perform well, but maybe that was part of it.
Oh, I mean, definitely. The flow state has to have equal parts of like actual competitiveness. Like that's why you can't go in the flow state playing, your grandma who's never thrown a bag in your
Yeah.
backyard, right? It has to have that competitive as well as, you being like caring about the, what you're doing. But so that it's not that you need to be in the flow state when you're probably not going to reach the top. But I don't recommend ever practicing bad habits. So anytime you're up in a tournament throwing bags, that's your chance to practice reps. Whether you're practicing slides, air mails, some other shot, or just your pre-shot routine or your mental comebacks, that kind of like that's all chances to have reps. And you certainly don't want to rep and have your brain and body understand what you don't want to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's definitely what I would say there. And then if I have a novice partner, I just switch to let's make sure this person has the best experience they've ever had. So I'm just going to have as much fun and make sure they're having fun. And tonight is not about winning, and that's perfectly fine because I play every single week, and every single week doesn't have to look the same.
Hey, we did take third, so it's
That's
not too
phenomenal.
bad. So out of 30 teams, we still took third, but again, it's just I've got to change that mindset of the feel of letting other people down if I don't perform well. I
Yeah,
need to.
it's all about how you respond. So nobody cares if you win or lose. They want to see how you respond, right? So if you lose or you play poorly and you respond poorly, that's what's going to stick out in their mind. Not that
Right.
you lost, that you threw a fit, that you now all of a sudden don't have confidence in yourself, that you lost trust in yourself. What they want to see in a leader is someone that can fail and fail publicly and not waver and be like, wow, that means when I fail, I won't waver either.
Right. Okay. Good
It
point.
doesn't mean anything. So what? You had a bad game, you had a bad day, you had a bad round. So what? I'm still a phenomenal cornhole player. One has nothing to do with the other. That's
Move
what
on
they
to the
want to
next one.
model.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that's a good stopping point there. Thank you so much for being vulnerable with us about what you're experiencing. You're not alone there. And I'm curious for everybody watching to drop in the comments, how you relate to Matt's experience or what you took away from this or anything like that. So curious to know how everyone else is experiencing this. And otherwise, we'll wrap it up here. And thanks so much for your time.
All right. Thanks, Mish.